Saving Isabelle's Forest by Veronica Zarzycki Hogan. This book is dedicated to mi babcia I dziadzio. Kocham I tęsknię za tobą. I love and miss you. I hope this story makes you smile and inspires you to have your own adventures, just like Isabelle. Young or old, tall or small, this book is for you all. Be brave. Although at times it may seem scary, believe in yourself and follow your heart.
I'm snuggled up under my covers in my bedroom at Rosewood House. That's my home, by the way. It's nestled on the outskirts of a small town called Paterson in the English countryside. Rosewood House is full of secret gardens, towering pine trees, and blankets of wild flowers in every colour of the rainbow. Not to mention the summer house, which my grandfather built, especially for my brother, my cousins, and me. He carved tree trunks for chairs and tables, and even built a stone porch that overlooks the forest. Grandfather is a scientist and a beekeeper, but most of all, an explorer. There is nothing he can't fix. His garage is a treasure chest of hidden gems like gramophones, old toys, and a giant cosy armchair that squeaks when you sit on it. The garage walls are hung with tools, war medals, and black and white photos that each have their own story. Grandfather loves to take my cousins and me on adventures. He's even made us our own walking sticks to take exploring. But I'll let you in on a secret. My grandfather has a forest. And it's magical. Chapter 1. The morning sunshine flickered through my curtains. I let out a big yawn and looked out my bedroom window. The garden was covered in orange and golden leaves, like a blanket of fiery flames. I hopped out of bed, dressed quickly, and ran down the stairs. I was instantly welcomed with the smell of hot chocolate and the sound of porridge bubbling on the stove. "Good morning, Grandma," I said, as I gave her a big hug. "Good morning, sweetie. Sit down, your breakfast is ready," she said, kissing me on the forehead. Grandma dusted my porridge and cinnamon sugar and topped it with a sliced banana. This really is the perfect breakfast for a chilly day. I quickly drank my hot chocolate, and it warmed me up instantly like a cuddle in a cup. I wiped off my hot chocolate moustache and jumped up from the table with excitement. "Thank you, Grandma. That was really yummy. Please may I go down to the forest today?" I said. "Okay. Stick to the path and remember to be careful. And put on your coat and scarf. It's freezing out there," she replied. "I'll be back this afternoon," I said, as I rushed out the door. I raced down the gardens, opened the old farm gate, ran down the hill, past the beehives, and into the forest. Chapter 2. The first thing I always do is head straight to the little borough. It's hidden deep in the forest and covered in a fluffy green blanket of moss. My best friends Dave and Georgia, the badgers, live there. Georgia's lemon drizzle cake is the best I have ever tasted. I think it might just be the best in the world. Last year, Georgia won the Golden Baking Acorn Award from the mayor, Sir Douglas the Owl. The animals in the forest have been begging for the recipe, but it's top secret. All of my friends live in the forest. There's Alice, Philippe, and John the deer, as well as the rabbits, Mr. Martin and Mrs. Lynn, and their rabbit family. I love to babysit their fluffy babies. Ahead of me, I saw Sophia, one of the babies, tumbling down the hill. "Sophia, get back here," said Martin. "Oh, for Pete's sake," he grumbled, shaking his head as he scooped Sophia into his arms. I couldn't help but chuckle. "Hi, Martin," I said. "Looks like you've got your hands full." Martin looked up at me smiling. "Isabelle, lovely to see you, sweetheart. Are you still okay to babysit tomorrow afternoon? Lynn and I are off to the Rose and Crown." The Rose and Crown is the forest pub, by the way. "Of course, Martin." "Give Mrs. Lynn my love," I replied. Chapter 3. I love the sound of my feet crunching on the autumn leaves. I briefly glanced down at a blackberry bush that was bursting with berries and ran smack straight into a boy. "Oh gosh, I'm so sorry," I said, turning red with embarrassment. I was startled to see another human in the forest. "Forgive me, but who are you?" I looked up at him. He had twinkly blue eyes and a cheeky grin. "I'm James. Lovely to meet you," he said. I'm Isabelle. I've never known the forest so quiet. Have you?" "Where is everyone?" I thought to myself. "Have you lost your friends too?" "It's just me and my dog Woody," James replied. "He's over there in the bushes, doing a poo." "I promise I'll pick it up," he added. I burst into laughter, the kind of laughter that makes your tummy hurt. Woody came bounding out of the bushes. I bent down and stroked his fluffy head. "Hello, boy. You're lovely, Mr. Woody, and you have the most beautiful fur." Woody nuzzled up to me, asking for a cuddle. James, would you two mind helping me find my friends? Dave and Georgia the badgers," I said. "Woody and I would love to help. He's very good at finding people," he replied. Woody barked in agreement, happily wagging his tail. "Aren't you?" James said, patting him on the head. "So what do you think? Up for an adventure, boy?" Woody barked with excitement. "I think that's a yes, Isabelle." How exciting that Woody and James want to join me on my adventures, I thought. Chapter 4. Woody bounded through the forest, racing past the ferns, jumping over tree stumps. It looked like running through the forest was his favourite thing to do. So many new smells and paths to explore. I chased after Woody, hot on his tail, if you pardon the pun. "Come on, slow coach, keep up," I shouted back at James. Woody and I had to stop to catch our breath for a moment. I looked up and to my surprise saw Joel, Noah and Eve the sparrows. "Gosh, am I glad to see you," I said. "We haven't seen you in a while," they tweeted down to me. Have you seen Dave and Georgia the badgers?" I asked, my voice ringing in the chilly air. "Didn't you hear?" "All the animals are leaving," said Noah. The tree cutters have come to chop down the forest." "No, that can't be true." I started to panic. "Your grandfather, he's He's selling the forest, didn't you know? Noah said quietly. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry, Isabelle, he added, when he realised I had no idea. But it's our forest. I felt the colour disappear from my face. It's my home. It's our home. Chapter 5. Joel, Noah and Eve flew down to be by my side. I'm afraid Sir Douglas has heard your grandfather talking to the tree cutters the other day. Noah flew down to sit on my shoulder. Don't worry, love. There are plenty more forests for us to find. Come with us. It'll be an adventure. I can't, I stuttered. But my grandfather, he would never. Surely he would have told me. My stomach felt knotted. I had to fight back my tears. The sadness of it all was just too much. Look, I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding, James said quickly. He was trying to be reassuring, because he hated to see me so sad. But what if it's true, though? What if my friends have all gone and it's all my fault? My family's fault, I said. The tears started to slowly fall down my face. I've got to go, I said frantically. I turned and ran. The fastest I'd ever ran before. My heart was beating through my chest. Woody ran straight after me, barking. Woody, come back, shouted James. But Woody only ran faster. I could barely see where I was going, the tears streaming down my face, blurring my vision. They can't do that. They wouldn't. Not without telling me. This is my home. The animal's home. And then I tripped over a tree root and fell head first into a mound of mud. I attempted to stand up, but my coat was caught on some brambles. I slipped again. To say this was a bad day would have been an understatement. I lay there hopeless, covered in mud and batting away the stinging nettles. Chapter 6. When I finally looked up, there was James, and peeking around his shoulders were my friends, Alice, Philippe, and John the deer. Are you all right, darling? Philippe said. You gave us such a fright, Alice added, with a friendly nudge of her nose to my cheek. What's wrong? My sorrows all but vanished. I couldn't have been happier to see such friendly faces. Do you need a hand? You look like you're in a bit of a pickle. Or should I say prickle, James said, with a chuckle. Yes, please. If you don't mind, I replied. As he pulled me up, I looked into his kind blue eyes. But then I remembered the bad news, which was far worse than the mud or the stinging nettles. James, why would they want to chop the forest down? My friends will have nowhere to go. It's our forest. It's their home. I simply can't chop it down. Look, Woody and I will do whatever we can to help, James said. Woody licked my face and snuggled up to me, then looked up at James. Woody's brown eyes sparkling, and he barked at him. It was as if he was saying, I'm going to help too. James gave me a big hug, and as I nestled into his warm arms, I knew, somehow, that this was going to be okay. Because I had James and Woody. But then suddenly, the silence was shattered by the deafening sound of a chainsaw, followed by the crash of a tree falling down. James and I looked at each other. It's them, I said quietly, my face full of fear. James bent down to talk to Woody and scratched his head. I need your help, boy. You have to find the other animals. As many of Isabelle's friends as you can. And tell them we need their help. He looked at me. We're going to fight for this forest, he said. This is the animals' home, like you said. And yours too. I promise. I won't let it be taken away. My heart filled, and I whispered into his ear, thank you. Just so you know, it's your forest too. And Woody's. James and I called out to all my friends. I had to find the badgers, as well as Martin and Lynn and the others. Hello, I shouted to the cold, empty air. Where are you? It's me. It's Isabelle. We need your help. I repeated the words over and over, each time with more desperation. Chapter 7. There was a buzzing noise. It grew stronger and stronger until it was deafening. I immediately knew who it was. Grandfather's bees! I looked behind me, and there was Woody, proudly leading all of the forest animals towards me. Minty and Eleanor, the queen bees, flew over. We've got this, Minty said. All of us are here, and we won't let anyone cut this forest down. But just as she was reassuring me, I heard the sound of a chainsaw once again. Branches snapped, and there was a loud thud as another tree hit the forest floor. Minty turned to Woody and the forest animals. You know what to do, she said, her voice determined. But what will you do? I asked, feeling panicked. Save your forest, Eleanor replied. Woody let out a long, loud howl. It was the signal the animals had been waiting for. And off they set, heading straight for the tree cutters. The bees swarmed them. Woody barked, and all the other animals cornered them beneath a humongous fir tree. The bees covered the tree cutters' faces, clouded their vision, making it impossible for them to escape. For heaven's sake, Dom, one of the cutters said, attempting to swat them away. You never said we'd be attacked by bees. Dom winced and wobbled his head back and forth in frustration. I hate animals, Kev, he shouted at the top of his voice. Philippe the deer was getting angrier and angrier. He lowered his head, angled his beautiful antlers forward, and ran at full force towards Dom. The force of his weight threw the cutter into the air, and then he landed with a loud thud on his massive bottom, straight into a pile of deer poo. "Well, I don't like you, Dom, either," Philippe replied with a satisfied grin. I stood there in shock. I couldn't believe my eyes. My friends really are the coolest animals in the world. "You better leave right now," I said to Kev and Dom, who both clearly had enough. "This forest belongs to my friends, the animals, so get lost." The tree cutters tried to escape, but bees were still swarming over them. In a panic, they both slipped and fell down, making everyone laugh. Well, everyone except Kev and Dom. Getting back to their feet, pulling their heavy workman boots out of the mud, they ran away as fast as they could. Minty turned to us all, buzzing loudly. "Let's go," I said. We chased the cutters through the forest, past the beehives, through the bamboo, past a mossy glade, and right up to the front door of my grandparents' house. All the while Dom and Kev were screaming at the top of their lungs. "Oh, get me out of here! This is all your fault," Dom shouted at Kevin. "No, it certainly was not," Kev replied. "It was you that chopped down that tree." They raced past the house and out the gate, so fast as if it was someone had lit a fire under their bottoms. Chapter 8. Grandmother and grandfather burst out of the front door, looking in bewilderment at the screaming, muddy woodcutters running for their lives. "What on earth's going on?" said grandmother, as James and I came to a halt in front of them. "And who are you?" grandfather added, staring James up and down. The animals stood behind us, quietly watching. Even Minty and Eleanor had stopped buzzing. "Grandfather, it's my fault," I said. "This is James and his dog Woody. They're my friends, and they know the animals in the forest." I could see how cross grandfather was, and my face dropped. My eyes filled with tears. "Grandfather, the animals said it was you that told those men to cut down the forest." I was trying not to cry. I had to hold back the tears and be strong for my friends. Chapter 9. "Come inside, darling," grandmother said softly to me. Georgia the badger squeezed my hand. "Don't worry, sweetie," she said. "We'll wait for you here." Grandfather shut the door behind me, and we all sat down at the kitchen table. "Darling," grandfather said, "the forest is worth a lot of money. Grandmother and I are getting older, and it's a lot of work for us." He paused, looking down in shame. I'm afraid we need to sell it. It's worth more without the trees." "But you can't," I said. "It's our home. It's the animals' home. What about them?" Grandfather hated to see me so sad. He reached out his hand, but I turned away and ran up the stairs to my bedroom, to my safe place. I could overhear grandmother talking to grandfather. "So you went ahead and spoke to the tree cutters without asking me? How could you?" As lovely as grandmother is, when she is cross, she is one scary lady. "I'm so sorry. I feel terrible. But I can't look after the forest on my own, Grandfather replied. What about the conservationists? They can help us look after the forest, Grandmother said. They may not pay as much, but it's our home. The animals' home. Please, don't do this. Okay, darling. I know. I need to go and talk to Isabelle now. Chapter 10. Grandfather knocked on my door. Darling, it's me. Please, can I come in? Okay, I replied, my voice muffled through my special blanket, which is called Nunai, because I couldn't say night-night when I was little. He sat down at the end of my bed. I should have told you. I'm sorry, I've let you down. I knew Grandfather was upset and I hated to hear him so sad. I gave him a hug. It's okay. I forgive you. There must be something that we can do. I promise you, I will do whatever I can to sort this out. Leave it with me. Now get some rest and don't worry, he said, as he kissed me good night. Chapter 11. The next day, as Grandfather woke me from my afternoon nap, the beaming afternoon sunshine glowed through my window, lighting up the tiny flowers on my creamy yellow wallpaper. The room started to fill with hope and magic. Minty flew into my bedroom and landed on my bedside table. She let out a loud buzz, so I noticed she was there. I know how to solve this problem, she said. You don't need to sell the forest. The animals can help you care for it and make the money you need. We'll give you our honey to sell. I promise you we're going to make more money than the town of Patterson has ever seen. We have 2 hives. I've already spoken to Eleanor from the other hive, and she knows how hard we have to work, she said, with a satisfied buzz. Grandfather chuckled with happiness. Thank you, he said. That really is the best solution I could ever have imagined. We do really have the best friends in the world. I smiled knowingly. I told you how magical bees are. Grandfather kissed me on the forehead and waved goodbye to Minty as she flew out the window and back to her hive. Minty was ready to get things started. After all, she did have a lot of work to do. I looked up and smiled at Grandmother, who'd appeared in the bedroom doorway. She sat down on an old velvet armchair next to my bed and gave me a smile full of love and of kindness. Darling, I'm so sorry, but we are your grandparents, and sometimes we make decisions that you have to accept. But I am proud of you for standing up for what you believe in. You can be outspoken and rude, but you are a strong girl. Life would be so boring if we were all the same, my darling. She gave my grandfather a wink. We will protect the forest and the animals you love, won't we? Grandmother said as she looked over to Grandfather. Grandfather's eyes became teary behind his glasses. But I knew they were tears of happiness. He kissed Grandmother on the cheek. You are such a beautiful, strong woman, he said softly. Chapter 12. Grandfather shuffled down the stairs into the kitchen, out the door and in. Out of my window I saw him sit down on the bench underneath the oak tree, watching the sun go down, its golden rays touching the tops of the trees in his forest. I knew he was thinking of the animals, the magic in the forest. No amount of money in the world was worth taking away any of this. The bees most certainly had a lot of work to do, but bees are incredibly hard-working and determined. I had no doubt in my mind that they would produce the most delicious golden honey. Later, grandmother tucked me into bed and stroked my hair. I looked into her bright brown eyes as she said, "I've contacted some people called conservationists. Their job is to protect forests and all the animals that live in them. They're going to help us take care of our forest. If we all work together, we can make it happen." "Really?" I said, sitting up with excitement. "They're going to help take care of all the animals, my friends who live in our forest." "Grandmother, thank you so much," I said, smiling from ear to ear. Grandmother chuckled. "You're welcome. But you need to know it's what I want too. And I know it's what your grandfather really wants too. Now get some rest, because tomorrow you have to tell your friends in the forest." I snuggled up under my special blanket. I was so excited to see Dave and Georgia, the badgers, and all of my other friends. Next morning, I yawned sleepily as I opened my eyes, and then I remembered all the events of the day before. A smile lit up my face. My friends and the forest are safe. I ran downstairs to see my grandparents. "Well, what are you doing in your pyjamas?" Grandmother said. "You better get dressed and put your coat on. You have to tell your friends the good news. And make sure you invite James and Woody round for tea this afternoon," she added, giving me a secret smile. Chapter 13. I raced past the field of wildflowers, heading straight for the beehives. "Hi, Eleanor. Hi, Minty," I said, but they were far too busy to even reply. I ran further into the forest, past the glades of ferns, and when I looked up, there waiting for me at the top of the path was James. "Oh, James, I nearly forgot about you in all the excitement." I couldn't have been happier to see his cheeky grin. As soon as he saw me, he started to chuckle, and Woody barked with happiness. Dave and Georgia jumped into my arms. "We did it!" I said, shouting with joy. "We've a plan to save our forest because we all work together." "Come with me, sweetie," Georgia said. And then I saw it. A beautiful golden cake tin. "Well, go on. It's for you," she said. I opened the tin to find a lemon drizzle cake. "Come on, let's all have a slice," said Georgia. I'm so proud, and she gave me a big cuddle. It was quite possibly the best moment of my life. James joined us, looking bashful and full of admiration. "You are one strong girl," he said. "Thank you, James. And thank you, Mr. Woody." I looked into James's beautiful blue eyes, blushing. I don't know what I would have done without you two." I gave them both a hug. "Thank you," I whispered in James' ear. My tummy was filled with butterflies. "I've got a feeling we've got a lot more adventures in store." Woody barked in agreement. Just as a ray of the afternoon sunshine burst through the trees, I knew it was going to be the best day ever. Acknowledgements. I want everyone to know that each character in this book is named after people that I really am so lucky to call my family. Firstly, to my Auntie Eleanor, who truly inspired me to start writing and gave me courage to finish this book. Thank you. To my late great uncle Eric, thank you so much for inspiring me to write too. To Dorota, Francesca and Alexander, thank you so much for so many memories and adventures that we created together in such a special place. To Alice, John, Paddy, Joel, Noah and Eve, thank you always for your love and support. To my wonderful friends, very patient friends, Isabelle, Minty, Julia and Bev, I'm so grateful to have such amazing pals. Most importantly, to Mummy, Daddy, Louie, and my beautiful dog and best friend Woody, I really, really thank you for all your patience. Words can't describe how much I love you. As a wise man once said, in brackets Louis, although I have left, my heart will always belong at home. And finally, James, thank you for always believing in me. I love you with all my heart. I'd also like to credit to Sue Copsey, my amazing editor. I could not have done this without you. Your belief and expertise has made my dream become a reality. Thank you so much to everyone. Lots of love and good luck on all your adventures.